everybody!
Hello everyone!
I think we are all live and everybody can see us and hear us, and nobody could hear us before, and everything's right this time, and hopefully that was a very uneventful going live this time around. No technical things going wrong at all.
I doubt it. It probably went horribly wrong.
This is where everyone just logs off. There's no drama, we don't care anymore. Hello everyone. Yep, see, Ed Avery's already said boring. Boo, boring. Who have we got in the house there? We've got a Mr. Marlowe, we've got Ed Avery, we've got Mr. Morph, we've got some weirdo called Robin Brooks, we've got David Henderson, Gaz Monster, JK Wargames. Hello, JK Wargames. Anthony Boyd, hello, and I think I've covered everybody. JK Wargames, I haven't seen you before, I don't think, commenting, so welcome aboard. If that is one of our patrons who's now, just known as JK Wargames instead, then, do let us know. Minna Corn, hello from Italy. Hello, Italy.
Hello, Italy. My notifications are slightly behind yours.
Nah.
I don't know what's happening.
You've
got control. You've got the control panel, haven't you? I want to get it on YouTube.
Although actually, quite often when we're talking, you comment about things, and then that's before I've seen them. So who knows? It's the internet being weird.
That's my clairvoyant skills coming in.
The clairvoyant. So, I know last time we were talking, I said I'm gonna just make the TNL sessions just a generic TNL session, and then we'll just work out our subject on the night or whatever. And then I added a subject title to this one, so we've kind of already got.
Personally, I think we've got to have a vague title, otherwise we'll end up descending into rubbish, more rubbish than usual. I think we need a theme to hang it together.
Oh, I wonder.
Next week's theme.
I wonder how. I do wonder how much that would actually stop us descending into nonsense. Because
we do that, but I think over lockdown we didn't really know what we were talking about, and sometimes we got a bit kind of laissez-faire.
We've never really known what we're talking about.
Obviously, we're really serious most of the time. I just feel like some hook to hang it on is what we need.
That's true.
But let us know in the comments below. I think we did ask right at the end of the day, but yeah, I think, do we need a hook to hang it on, or should we just talk bollocks for an hour?
Yeah.
Or both.
Not suggesting that we shouldn't come to the video, to the session actually thinking, okay, this is what our subject's going to be, and we're going to talk about a certain thing.
Right. Okay.
But maybe just not bother shouting about it in advance, just in case GW dumps something on us at the last moment, and then we're like, oh crap, now we've got to change things. I mean, it does help by the fact that I don't tend to then list these things until like Monday night, Tuesday morning on the train, like I did today. But
Video says he didn't watch my video about Archon Studios. Yeah, it's difficult, that one, because I only know your experience of it from your experience, and my own experience was they said they'd send me something and they did. So I don't really, the product. I reviewed the product on its merits. I don't know anything about.
Was Archon Studio the one that did something with Kickstarters that wasn't very good?
Yeah, they've had a couple of Kickstarters that have gone badly.
Awry.
And of course, these things are retail, so it's a bit different.
Yeah.
But I know at least one of the patrons had a good experience with them, or at least an experience with them that wasn't entirely negative, because they got the fantasy terrain they've been doing for Curse City. So I think I know they have got a bad rep for their Kickstarters, but I can't personally comment on that. So that's why I did the video. When they contacted me, I didn't know anything about it at all.
Who is it who does the people who do the Batman stuff? They were terrible at
night models.
Yeah, is it night models? They're terrible for getting out enough models for people to buy and stuff like that. But I mean, we can't all be GW with a massive worldwide, reach. A lot of these studios.
My own personal experience with night models is quite poor, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. I certainly recommend getting it when you've got it in hand rather than ordering it.
Yeah.
But that's all I can comment on is the stuff that Archon sent me, and they said they would send it to me, and they did. So,
I feel like in this instance, people like GW, and it's kind of the same with Google in their certain field and Amazon in their certain field, is they've spoiled us with the level of service and quality of product and stuff that they provide, like GW's models, Amazon's ability to get you stuff you order in like a day despite some of the shit you might order, and Google's ability to find random shit when you search and you get most of the words typed wrong and the spacing all wrong and stuff, and it still knows what the fuck you mean. It means you then start to, a lot of people I feel, then apply that level of expectation to other things. Like using the Tesco's shopping search function, Tesco's grocery search function is woeful in that you type banana and it doesn't find you any bananas, it finds you banana flavoured things. If you type bananas with an S, then it finds you bananas.
I was having a similar experience with the Sainsbury's website today, but I don't think we necessarily need to talk about that. I don't know. I think there's a difference. There's a difference between being a small company and getting stuck with, especially at the moment, with logistical issues and what have you. But it's another thing, another level. There are some downright shysters out there on Kickstarter who, to be fair, I don't know whether it's deliberate, but they're just incompetent.
Yep, there is certainly a fair share of incompetency, and I think some are well-meaning, fan-run companies a bit, that don't have many people, so they do end up sometimes cocking things up without meaning to. But not everybody can be your Amazons and your Googles and in the case of hobbying, GWs. So sometimes you have to give them a bit.
I did the He-Man Kickstarter, which is the one that Blackjack Legacy apparently didn't decline to review.
Didn't even get out of the box or something. Just said.
Well, I think he did get out of the box. He tried to do it and it wasn't very good. But I don't know the details of that. And what you can watch the other video. The sci-fi scenery is pretty good. I think it's, if it's what you need, it's good. If you don't need it, then it's not very good. If that makes sense. It isn't going to. It's not going to be. It's not something you see and think, oh wow, I must have that.
Yeah.
Like some bits of the GW scenery are a bit like that, aren't they? But if you want to have a dungeon, that you want to build a modular dungeon or a modular spaceship, then it does that for you. That's what it does, and it does that very well.
So we've had Toby Hendrickson says good afternoon from Iowa. Hello, Toby. Thank you for joining us.
Brad P's made a very good point, Pete. A rebuttal to your.
Yeah, their constant limited release stuff has annoyed me. Although Kill Team, they have said everybody can get it. So
Yeah, I don't know of anywhere where that ran out. I haven't heard of people having
no.
to be on the list. So they seem to have got that right.
I've seen some stories, and I don't know whether it's just the KT-18ers who are just keen to poo-poo KT-21 have been going on about there being stacks of them in shelves around the country still. So who knows? Maybe there is. Maybe they just released enough on release, so people didn't need to.
Talking about communication here, GW do have a bit of a communication issue. Things can disappear into a black hole when it goes wrong. Curse City.
Yeah, what was that about? I mean, but then I do wonder sometimes. I mean, people forget that they're a company, which means that whilst they might be worth a lot of money, that doesn't mean that they, that they're not understaffed and that they're not, missing people in vital positions, and that they've not got some people who just haven't got a clue what they're doing sometimes.
Yeah, well, I know for a fact that in certain areas they have been. I'm trying to channel to communicate with you by my mind there. But I know for a fact that they have had some issues on the community side.
So it's hard to tell. But anyway, none of that's what we came on tonight to talk about, and I'm assuming that some of the newer people who joined us tonight, Toby and Menog Core, maybe they've come on to actually talk about Kill Team. So we best get on to a subject of Kill Team.
Yeah, so I think we won't really talk particularly about the game itself, although inevitably we probably will.
Probably.
But I think we were going to just discuss what we'd like to see for the game. Is that
our
right,
wish
Pete?
lists. Yeah, basically our wish list for Kill Team, and see what people out there watching at home have as their kind of wish list. Do let us know in the comments. Do shout out any things that you think about for Kill Team, any wish lists, any things you're wondering about or hoping for or praying for, or any questions you might have about the game.
Hands up who had Sisters of Battle and Town on their wish list.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't,
and I checked and it's still not on there.
I'm going to go in there with that one. I mean, I'm quite reasonably pleased to see the Town, but they wouldn't have been top of my list. What would have been top of your list, Pete, apart from Skaven?
Whilst I answer that, I'm not sure if you're using your Razer microphone again. You're a bit echoey, so I don't know.
It might be because I put it over there. I forgot to move it.
You've not got it near you.
Yeah, I forgot to move it. So is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
You didn't remind me of that, did you? Ha. I got a little Pete style message. Don't forget to do this thing, but I forgot something even more fundamental this evening. In your face.
Yes, I am truly the loser in this situation.
Well, in any situation, really.
Hello, Hello, Wolfman Gaz. Yeah, so what did I want to see? Things that they haven't done yet that I think that they might do. I mean, I'd like to see a slightly more specific Gene Stealer kill team released.
Oh, you've stolen mine, you git.
Or actually, more than Gene Stealer cult, I think I'd like to see a more specific NID release with maybe something
that's
slightly
even more
bigger.
stolen. That's even more stolen mine.
So that would be, I think my top one would be, Lictors, John Grant said. I think I'd like to see a Lictor, but that might just be a bit too much for the game.
Right. Yeah, I don't really. I'm terrible on lore, so I don't really know what they are. They're the massive.
They're the big things with the big claw things behind their back, and not a bunny rabbit.
I mean, I'm a bit worried about the game expanding into big things. I'd rather it was kept small. That's what I say to my wife. And yeah, but
she said I wouldn't.
Yeah, so I don't know.
So what would yours be then?
Sorry.
So what would yours be then?
Well, I'm gonna answer a question first. I'm trying to drag out my own poultry offering. Matthias Rydberg says for Kill Team he'd like to see the Gellerpox infected because he owns the models but never actually played them. Do I think it's a possibility? Do we think it's a possibility? I think it's a possibility. It's the sort of thing you might get in a White Dwarf. I don't actually really know what Gellerpox infected are. It doesn't sound very nice.
Don't you remember they did the standalone ones? They had the Rogue Trader ones, and then they had the Nurgly type ones that had those big.
Yes.
Those are the Gellerpox and and the other things.
I think they could. I reckon they won't crop up in a White Dwarf.
I'd love to see them appear in a White Dwarf because they weren't around for very long, and you can still play them in the because it was a standalone version of Kill Team. I think there was a board that they were on a spaceship and things like that. So it was like Kill Team on a spaceship, but it was a bit crap, the release and stuff. And I think anybody who's got it, it would be nice for them to still be able to play them.
Yeah, this is partly what I was thinking about. What I might say tonight. I actually, and this fits in quite nicely with that. I think I thought as well. It's nice that they're doing these big boxes with terrain and everything in, but I thought it would be quite nice to have like releases that have so you get the models whatever they are, so the Gellerpox in that they would fit quite nicely, and then you get a little leaflet with some spec ops and some terrain layouts and a little mini campaign for them, just a small thing, just one box, so you could just buy that and play it with your mates kind of thing. You know, they'd bring their box with one thing in it, and I thought that would be a nice way of adding to the Octarius. I forgot what the other call begins with a C. You know, just I kind of feel like they could do that. They probably won't, but I would like to see some smaller releases. You don't always have to be like a pitch battle between two big teams. You know, you could each team because of the way the narrative works. You actually only need the stuff for yours. You could say, well, I want to play this today, and you know, we've got these bits of terrain, and my objective is to do this thing, and I think that would be quite nice because although they've got like the Octarius. Spec Ops, not Spec Ops, that's not what they're called. But the missions are
TAC Ops.
Although they are for Octarius versus Orcs, they're also kind of vague. And I think I would like to see something a bit more specific for some specific kill teams. Whether they actually bring the models out with them, or whether they just bring them as in a book. You know, here's a handful of team specific kill team ideas. I don't know. Yeah. That's what I'd like to see. They won't do it, but that's what I'd like to see.
Brad P suggests he says he expects to see a mixed Primaris list in White Dwarf. I mean, it's almost definitely going to happen considering Primaris are GW's thing. I wouldn't be that excited to see that though. Mr. Morph says that wasn't there a coming release rumor floating around about specifically citing a Gene Stealer cult release with a new character with specials for 40k. I mean,
if there was, but I've forgotten.
Yeah,
so many
cool.
announcements. I'm kind of expecting some Black Templar type stuff. Actually, they'd be quite cool for a little campaign. You know, Crusade type thing, kill team thing. That would fit perfectly with the single box idea that I was discussing. You know, just this is a Black Templar Crusade thing mission that you can go on. That would work.
John Grant says Striking Scorpions. I really want Striking. I'd love to collect a little Eldar force with some Striking Scorpions and maybe some some Rangers or something. That would be absolutely amazing. I would love that. And then he suggests Kaschans. I mean, their sprue are only about 25 years out of date, so I mean, what do you need new ones for? Phalanx 167 says he could see them coming back in a new pack separate altogether. I assume it means the Galapox and the other one. That would be nice. Mike Jones, no really, says he made it live. Hello, Mike Jones, no really. Welcome aboard.
Swooping Hawks. Yeah, this is out. I'm so far out of touch. I don't know what a Swooping Hawk is.
They're the blue Eldar that had like the wings. They were like the flying aspect.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Arbites, that'd be cool. Arbites. If nothing else, you could also sing whilst you're playing them. I'm a secret lemonade drinker.
We would do that. We'd have. What are Arbites? Sorry, I'm.
They're like the Judge Dredd rip-off police that they used to have in Necromunda, and they used to have them in 40k as well, I think.
Okay, yeah, they'd be cool. Sort of like the Enforcers.
Yeah. They were like the previous version of the Enforcers.
In lemonade-coloured outfits. I actually would really like, and we talked about that before, but I would really like to have some Necromunda rules for the Necromunda gangs. Yeah, they won't do it, but I would like that. But yeah, the Enforcers I think will make a really cool kill too.
I think there's probably very little chance of them doing that purely because of the story of Necromunda, and it doesn't really fit into the kill team sort of thing. You know, you're not going to get a gang from the Underhive pulled out and dumped behind enemy lines.
No, but you might get whatever's in the hive for whatever reason.
True. Yeah. But
so you're not going to get. They're not going to go off planet faring and get to do the brain rise. But there could be some reason for, like, certainly say the Gene Stealer cults. There'll certainly be a reason for them to be in there. I mean, I know you can have those in Necromunda, but there you go.
Yeah. Toby Hendrickson asks a very good question: are there rules for Gaunt's Ghosts? No, and there should be, because they would be good. They're like the default. They are like the original Imperial Guard kill team. Yeah.
I don't actually like the models that much. I was going to go and buy them to add them to my Krieg, and in the end I just bought some bog standard Cadians because it wasn't just that I didn't like the models, it was the price of them too.
Yeah.
They're excessively expensive.
They are, because you're buying a box full of characters basically. Yeah,
they're excessively expensive. But they would be cool. They'd be cool to have kill team. Well, again, that's the sort of thing that might turn up in a White Dwarf.
Yeah. What else have we got in here? Vanilla Demons. That would be quite cool. John Grant suggested.
Vanilla Demons. We'd love some less vanilla demons. So like a proper interesting demonic kill team. Yeah, that would be quite cool.
Some kind of Imperial Guard, semi-possessed kind of thing going on.
Yeah, I don't know why GW have neglected them, but Eldar. Everybody's talking about Eldar in the chat. Eldar have been massively neglected, it seems to me, for years. And I don't even really play, so I haven't really been following it. But I feel like they could definitely do with a new kill team of some sort, or maybe even half a dozen.
Yeah, I mean, Eldar seem to have been out of just off of GW's radar. I mean, they had a little resurgence when the Inari came around, but that was only like 3 models, and then Rowboat Gillyman came back as well because one of the Inari helped revive him or whatever, but they've not really released much in the way of Eldar stuff since then. There was some Wraith, the Wraith Guard they did in plastic about, I don't know, 10 years ago or something, but that's been about it.
And I wonder whether they don't quite know what to do with them, because they're kind of the origins of that time when they kind of like, well, what have we got in fantasy battle? Well, we've got elves, we've got orcs, we'll have space orcs, we've got dwarves, we'll have squats. Yeah. Let's do space elves, and then they don't really know how to evolve them, which is, I'm sure they're quite capable of doing that, but it just seems an odd reluctance because I think they'd probably be popular.
Yeah, I mean, as Phalanx,
they don't sell well. Yeah, that's and like you say, they don't sell well. But if they don't make new ones, they're not going to sell well, are they?
Yeah, I mean, I know that GW their big money maker is Marines of whatever shape and form is one of their biggest like main incomes. It's a very real percentage of their income. So obviously they're always going to spew out more Marines than anything else because again it's self-fulfilling prophecy. But I would have thought I would have thought Eldar would have been quite popular. But
yeah, and the Marines are getting more medieval as they go along as well. Bigger swords, bigger shields.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just like, why have people got swords and shields in a game set in a time when people have, like, lasers that can disintegrate you? What good's a shield in that situation? There's no... I suppose we shouldn't try and look for the logic in any of these kind of things. None of them have any real logic in them.
So Mike Jones, really, says he thinks it's because the Eldar are very tactically complete. I'd have to take your word for that. VJ, will come back to your question about Marvel Crisis Protocol later, I think, because we haven't played it yet. It's a short answer to your question.
Yeah.
I've just set it up. I'm going to come back to it. I'm going to do it now. So yeah, this Thursday, Pete and I are going to record our first game of Marvel Crisis Protocol, but
with the twist.
we're going to do it slightly differently because we've got and
also
sorry.
And also.
Actually, I need to find mine. That's Pete, in case you were wondering. I need to find mine because. So anyway, so we're going to do that. Well, I've got. You might have seen the picture on Facebook. I've set it up so that I can actually just kind of play through. I saw somebody saying, "Oh, I played a few games of this on my own." I thought maybe I'll try that so that I actually understand the rules when Pete comes.
And he lost.
And I find it really difficult. Mainly because I keep tripping over the table as I go walk around it, but I just find it really difficult to play against myself. So I've been watching videos. But anyway, so VJ, we're recording that this Thursday, and hopefully everybody will really enjoy that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes. I don't know whether the Lego aspect of it is going to turn everybody off, or whether the Lego aspect of it is going to turn everybody on. I mean, it's hard to tell really. So, as we always seem to make completely the wrong judgment call in all of these kind of things, I'm assuming it's going to bomb and nobody's going to watch it. But we'll see.
I'm hoping people will watch it. Look.
I mean, it's going to be a very quick and easy way for us to get new models and terrain onto the table, at least. Oh, I want Hulk. Okay, I just bought Hulk. There we go. He'll be here tomorrow, and we can play with Hulk or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, that's yeah. So I'm really looking forward to it. Actually, I've been going over the rules, and it's been fun. But we'll talk about that later if anybody wants to talk about it again, because we were talking about Kill Team. And so
just to correct one thing, Mike Jones, not really. I think might have misheard you because he said, "Did you say Marvel versus Capcom?" We didn't say Marvel versus Capcom. No.
I don't know what I said. Marvel Crisis Protocol.
Yes.
With Lego.
Says Marvel. Yeah. So there we go. I'm very interested.
Red Skull here, look. And my son even dug me out a Tesseract. Really made me laugh.
Brilliant. So we had a comment. Someone, Phalanx, said that he'd love to see an Inquisitorial team re-emerge. I like the idea of.
That was one of my thoughts.
I really like the idea of an Inquisitorial team, but I'm not sure if it fits the theme of Kill Team, because Kill Team's meant to be like a group of like nobody suicide mission fighters kind of thing, almost just dumped behind enemy lines and sent in, whereas the Inquisitorial team seems a bit too main characterish, but I don't know.
Well, I guess there could be an Inquisitor, and perhaps they don't even, in the narrative, perhaps they don't actually fight, perhaps they just send the plebs down. I haven't read much. I've only read the first. I've forgotten what it's called.
Well, the Dan
Abnett ones, yeah. I reckon you could make a Kill Team, not necessarily based on that, but based on something similar. And what I would really be really cool if I had the time and the inclination would be to tie it into some sort of Wrath and Glory campaign. So the Wrath and Glory book is really quite cool, and you could generate a load of characters that could then be represented by a Kill Team on the table. And that would be more specific, kind of tailored narrative stuff, which GW are never going to do, because I think, I said this before with Warcry, I think if there are people out there who do it for fun and probably do it better than GW could ever do, these kind of really big sweeping narratives with really intricate rules and storylines and things, and there's no point in them spending a fortune doing it to that degree. It's much better for them just to do a framework and then hang very generic stuff on it.
Yeah, and then
But that would be really cool. That would be really cool if you had the time. I would love that.
So Mechanolith says that they read, in 2022 will be Chaos and Eldar. So he's thinking a team for Chaos and a team for Eldar. I mean, I'd love to know what they're doing in 2022 right now. If it is Chaos and Eldar, that'd be great. I'd love
that would be cool because we haven't really seen any of that.
No.
So that would be cool. I would definitely like that. My big thing for the wish list, and again, it would never happen, but I would love to see some sort of some sort of Space Hulk representation.
Ooh.
So some scenery that's like the interior of a spaceship, and maybe a little kill team of Terminators, and then a little kill team of alien Nid type things, Gene Stealers, not necessarily like full Space Hulk with just reams of loads and loads of Gene Stealers. But I think that'd be really cool. They could do some really cool scenery and some really cool narrative shenanigans. So that might be a bit specific to the box, but I'd like to see that.
Yeah,
I always love.
Go on after you.
I always love Terminators, so I'd love to see a little Terminator kill team, but it might be too powerful.
Yeah, possibly. I think, and that brings me on to another thing I was going to talk about tonight. I think if you did something like it would be quite cool, but you'd end up with that kind of Galapox Rogue Trader like box they did a couple of years ago, which was very specific, and then didn't really have any other implications outside of that.
No.
You couldn't use those models for anything else. They didn't have any cross-game compatibility. Not like
there's a wish list, so really it could just be for me.
True, that's true. That's true. One thing that did bring me onto was about Terminators. Was a lot of people online I see are saying things like, when do we think they're going to add elites back into the game, or do we think they're going to add elites back into the game? And one thing definitely on my wish list is not to have elites and HQs appear in the game. I think that would ruin the game again.
I think so. I mean, I don't really know what it means, but because I obviously I understand it in general terms, but we didn't ever really play the previous kill team, and I know the elites came out, but I think I like the small scale of it, and I don't think it needs bigger nasty things. It's already got some relatively big and nasty things in it. I don't think it needs. I think it needs more kill teams, but it doesn't need bigger add-ons to the existing kill teams. If that makes sense.
I agree. I'd rather see multiple individual kill teams rather than multiple ways of adding people to your kill teams, because that just means you're going to have to balance more books, more sources of information, and I'd rather have a kill team, a book or a box that all comes in, and just buy that and be done with it.
Yeah. I mean, add-ons is always always a problem for GW, isn't it? You've got to keep up with information in about 8 places, and that's always an issue. And for me, the smallest amount of that there is, the better. And I don't say for me, it's probably for most people, isn't it? I know there are some people who love to have add-on after add-on after add-on, but really at the end of the day, you want your information for your army in as few places as possible.
Yeah, Anthony Boyd, almost like Underworld's Warband. So you just buy, like with the Sisters, like with the Tau, like with the Commandos, you get the box, that's got everything in it you need. You might need to buy a second box to get, extra models of the basic dudes or whatever, but you get that box and you get a book, and that's it. You don't then need to go and get a Elites book and then, now I've got the Elites book, I actually want to get some Terminators for my Space Marine kill team or whatever. It's just, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I almost feel like there's too much variation in the 2 original, the 2 new kill teams.
Yeah.
There's you've got, they're not elites, but you've got a lot of different varieties that you can have, and actually I feel like they should have been limited a bit more, so there was a bit more choice. Now, maybe we haven't really explored, we haven't played a lot of games yet, we haven't really explored it, but I found in the last game I almost didn't have any troopers at all. I almost feel like there should have been a balance where you've got to have like a third or a half plebs, and then the rest you can pick your specialists.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like the Orcs had far too many good fighters, and the Orcs massively outclassed the Guard, I feel, but maybe that's just...
I think I still haven't... I think the way I play them, they do. I think there's some subtleties to it that I just can't get my head around. I think
Could be.
the more we played it, the more I think I'm getting old. And I just don't really understand how games work anymore.
Pajamas Gagarin says they've already screwed up with AdMech. Updating the latest White Dwarf is better than the one in the Compendium. I mean, I don't see that as screwing it up. I think they've just given another option for AdMech that people can then pick if they have that White Dwarf.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be a good way for them to shift units to White Dwarf, isn't it?
I think that's partially that, and I think that is for where they don't want to do a whole box release like with the Sisters and Tau. I think that's their way of getting out some updates for some of the kill teams without having to go through too much hassle.
The ones that they've got no plans to make new models for.
I do think it is a slightly shitty move that they brought out the Compendium and then not a month later brought out a White Dwarf with, this new kill team in it. I think that's a bit of a dick move.
Pajamas has made the point about having one source of rules and profiles. That's true, but at least I suppose you can't mix and match. So if you've got the White Dwarf, you've got what you need.
Yeah.
You don't need the Compendium anymore if you want to play AdMech. You just have that White Dwarf.
Yeah. You just have the White Dwarf.
Swings and roundabouts. But as soon as they start adding like a AdMech elite, in the book that you can get, and then
someone was talking about they'd like to see elites because they'd like to see those robots that they can get. But again, if they did that, you'd immediately be stuck in that position where it's like, oh right, now I've got my White Dwarf, but now I also need the Elites book to have this other fighter in it, and I'd rather they didn't do that. I would rather just...
I think we all know it's going to happen, but we'd rather we didn't.
I will be sad, and I think if they do it, we will probably just ignore it and just play our own game and just pretend it didn't happen. We're already talking about stripping out rules whilst we play our games just to make our lives easier.
Yeah, we found the level of granularity a little bit much so far.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. It's one of those things. It doesn't feel too bad until you start doing it again, and then it's like, oh my god.
I was editing our game today, and I've got to the point where I think we're going part way through Turning Point 2, so we're not even halfway through the game, and then one of us looked at our watch and went, it's 11 o'clock already. Like, oh bloody hell.
It's supposed to be a quick game. Well, I've got lots of comments. I don't know. I haven't been keeping up. VJ agrees with Gaz about something about elites. Phalanx says should add rules for Kill Team Cassius and other unique kits too, like War Boss Gruck.
Yep.
I will take your word for that.
Yeah.
Then we Pajamas talks about White Dwarf. Orcs, and speaking of Orcs and Terminators, in a fashion of Space Hulk, I would love to see Storm Boys versus Assault Marines on skyscraper terrain. Yeah, that kind of thing would be cool.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Roderick Pommier has said a really good little point, which is he'd buy a book of fleshed out Space Marine chapter rules, those salamanders and stuff. And again, I wouldn't mind seeing something like that, and I would see that as being either a separate standalone book or a separate White Dwarf article where it's just like, here's what a Space Wolf kill team is, here's what a Salamander kill team is, and
I really like though that you can sort of, and you can't do that many because you've only got 20 models, but I like that you can paint little fire teams in colours of your choice. So I've never painted any Blood Angels before in my entire life, and I'm painting 5 at the moment.
I wonder what.
And they're very red.
Red. I mean, I'm enjoying the fact that I'm painting some Necrons, because I've always liked Necrons, because they're just space skelegogs, and I've always wanted to paint some. And then we got the fire team box, and I obviously had some Necrons in it, and then it's like, oh, there's actually enough Necrons here to make a kill team, so job done. Yeah,
and I'm looking forward actually to playing some more fire team, because I really enjoyed that. And we've only played the one game, and that would be good, especially when we start to get a few other fire teams painted up. The Orcs are standard Orcs, aren't they? They're not the kill team Orcs.
I think they're a specific. I think they might be like. I don't actually know if they're Badruck or not. I need to look. I need to look up Badruck now to see if it was Badruck's flash kits or something. I know it wasn't Captain Badruck, but now I'm going to have to look up the Orcs in fire team to see because I think they're a standalone box set. So I'm going to look that up now whilst we talk.
Mike Jones really says he thinks that'll be a real game seller, the Space Marines, whether it be in a White Dwarf or a book, because everyone has some Space Marines. It's interesting. Space Marines seem to they're like Marmite, aren't they? Everybody either likes Space Marines, and they're their biggest seller, but an awful lot of other people think they're really boring and hate them.
I've never. No, that's not true. I was going to say I've never bought any Space Marines. That's not true. I did have Space Marines, but I haven't currently got any Space Marines unless you count the ones from Space Crusade themselves. Right. So I don't actually have any Space Marines. But
you're a Space Marine hater.
I'm not a massive fan of them, but if they did Space Marine specific rules for Kill Team, I would definitely buy a Heavy Intercessor, like Imperial Fist, group or something like that, because I just love the yellow armor on those. So
yeah, it would add a lot of flavour and more stronger narrative bond to the game. Yes, it would. I feel like, and it's sort of true of a lot of GW games, maybe. I feel like this game is in danger of falling between two posts, which is that I think it's been mostly designed, from a design point of view, I think it's mostly been designed for narrative games. But from the discussion on Facebook point of view, it seems to be mostly played for competitive games. And I've seen that people have, there's already been at least one big tournament, hasn't there, or something, a big event at Warhammer World. I think there's another one coming up, and I don't know what that means, but I think that's always going to colour the reception of whatever they build. How competitive it is always going to colour how it's received, I think.
Yeah. So the orcs in Fireteam were called Git Crushers Bad Lads, and I'm going to try and just drag it over screen so people can sort of see them. Those are Git Crushers Bad Lads. I'm not sure if they're a specific box set. They look a bit more specific than just generic orcs, so I don't know if there is, an orc box set out there somewhere for those. But we could probably proxy those with some of the models we've got, or maybe as it's only about 6 models, just if it's a set, just go and get those for Fireteam. There were the Harlequins, the Scions, Tempesta Scions. We do have some Scions, don't we?
We do. They're pretty cool.
They do look very nice.
And I built one.
This has what looks like a plasma gun, 3 lasgun dudes, and a guy with a chainsword. So probably something you can make.
Need to build those.
Interestingly, the Tau only has like 3. I think they're stealth suits, so they're tougher to hit and stuff. But they only have like 3 stealth suits and 1 drone. So considering the Space Marines is 5 Space Marines, and the Necrons is 10 Necrons and 3 Scarab Swarms, 3 Tau space stealth suits doesn't sound like a lot.
You get a lot of Necrons. Yep. Okay, what we got here? VJ not buying a Marine, having not bought one since the 90s. Roderick Premier says something like they did with Warcry would be. I'm not sure what. Sorry, I've lost the thread with that one.
It would be. It just would be.
Okay. Okay, and then Pajama says Great Crusade or even Horus Heresy period kill team. Yeah, I that would be cool. But again, they won't do that. But that would be cool.
Yeah. Mike Jones really says, do you feel GW designs more for the competitive player or for the narrative player? Hardcore competitive players usually do not represent the majority of players. I would say that second statement is very true. Hardcore competitive players do not usually represent the majority of players. That is 100%.
No, I think they're quite vocal, aren't they? It's they're like a vocal.
They're the vocal minority.
Or you feel like everything I see, not everything I see, but lots of things that I see are. I either see hobby stuff, people really into the painting and that kind of side of it, or people trying to do the sort of max lists for whatever game. I don't think they write very good competitive rules. Certainly Kill Team, I don't think the competitive rules are particularly great.
Very brain.
And I feel like it's a narrative game that then they've tried to put a little box for match play into it. I don't know about the other big games. They're so sprawling. I would say almost they're almost more narrative. I certainly got that impression with Dominion. Actually, I didn't remember saying that at the time. I felt very much like it was pushing you towards playing it in a narrative fashion rather than a competitive fashion. But it, like I say, it always seems to be that everybody wants to play it competitively. But that's actually I think I'm talking bollocks. It's the vocal side of it. It's what you see. But I'm just thinking about our patrons we've got a little Warhammer Discord. We've got our Discord, and then there's a Warhammer channel in there, or an AOS channel in there, and the people who play that aren't competitive at all.
Most of them aren't. I think we have an element
all in for the fun.
I think there is a growing, more vocal portion of the market of people who just play it for fun, and I think, part of that is because the people who used to play it when they were in their teens and so on, they're now 40-something-year-old men with kids and jobs and lives and all the rest of it, and they don't have a lot of time to do all of this stuff, so they'd like to play it, but there's just no way that they can play 40k or AOS anymore. So they're looking for something more fun. I
have a disconnect, which is that I like the idea of narrative play, but then when I get my arse kicked, but it doesn't matter because it's just telling a story, I still get grumpy.
Well, I mean,
so there's a disconnect there, which I need to learn to stop.
It's,
it doesn't really matter, but it's yeah.
But if getting your ass kicked means you are then going to start, losing out in some way, then it's quite understandable to be a bit annoyed if you're losing. But I wonder how much that is just down to the frustration of trying to work out the rules and the subtleties of kill team.
I think that's partly it. I hate it when I feel like it's out of my control.
Well, it's one of those things where we've always said that, some of it comes down to who can remember their special rules.
Yeah.
And it's like if you forget that, your fighter can do this thing, but you forgot for 3 rounds that they could do it, you've kind of missed out on that opportunity a little bit.
I'm not a born loser. No, I'm not a born loser, no. And in fact, I have to try really hard because my dad was fiercely competitive, and I have that in me, but he just used to make life miserable sometimes. And so I have it in me to try really hard not to be like that, because I can remember like losing to my dad.
But I mean, everybody... Did he used to beat you when you were like 10? Then you just sit there going, "You lose, you suck."
Not really, but not really. I'm casting you in a bad light. Not really, but he liked to win, so he would just. But it was more, and it's quite funny because my wife does it. So my son is quite good at chess, but he refuses to play his mother because she takes so long to. She was very good at chess too, but she takes so long to make a move. And my dad was the same. So games would be agonising because they just take a fucking long time.
It's like, dude, we're only here for a while. Just make a fucking move. It doesn't matter if it's a good one or not.
Exactly. Whereas he doesn't mind playing chess with me because I don't take a long time, and he can beat me for that mainly for that reason.
I mean, everyone likes to win, right? Everyone likes to beat somebody, but nobody likes to be in that situation where they're playing somebody who is just taking an age deliberately, at least. For that kind of thing. But
yeah. But I think my own personal issue when we play is that when I lose, I always feel like there's nothing I could have done to make that better. It's entirely the fault of the game rather than me, and that's a little thing I need to work on because clearly I could do things differently, and it would be different. But it's not what it feels like at the time.
I mean, watching the game when I'm editing them sometimes, and I'm not going to give any spoilers away for the game that will be coming out this week. You did have some atrocious luck during that game.
Did I?
Just look or I don't know if it's you had atrocious luck or my dice were just disgustingly good, but I remember multiple times me going, "Oh, I've rolled a couple of crits for my defense, so any hits you would have got, just not going through anymore."
Yeah, I think there was definitely that, and then the orcs have that thing where they can convert crits, which is really fucking annoying.
Yeah, but they're not. That it comes down to that. Remember people who can remember the specials because I forgot it most of the time. It's funny that neither of us are particularly competitive players. Neither of us are really big into the whole being competitive thing. Partially because we're both a bit lazy with it and we just can't be bothered to spend that time on it. But then Underworlds became our big game. GW's most competitive, the ultimate competitive miniatures game, and we're like, yeah, but let's not play it competitively.
And it can be played either way, can't it? And I think competitive really is a kind of, what's the word, synonym for balanced in GW terms. I don't think it. I think it's the most balanced game they've made.
Who's got greasy hands, Pajama? Greasy hands. I haven't got greasy hands. I've got some blue tack. Playing with my blue tack. Trouble is, if you play around with blue tack for too long, it loses all its consistency. It just turns into like.
It's a tesseract.
Where's the tesseract? Oh yeah. Oh shit! I dropped it. What would you drop and break a tesseract? Should we make a little cube?
It might have been pretzels.
Oh yes, that is a good point. Pretzels can make a short, horrible work of cards, and that's another thing we don't do. We don't use dice sleeves, which I'm sure brings a lot of people out in a rash.
I do like a competitive game, VJ. VJ just I play more competitive games. Cooperative games. I do like a cooperative game. But I don't know whether it's. I find, well, firstly for the channel, people don't really watch them. Is my experience. So there's less point in us recording them.
Yeah.
And I have found when I've played multiplayer cooperative games, and then probably are some this doesn't apply for, but I found we quite often end up kind of doing the number crunching, and actually I wouldn't say the excitement goes out of it, but it's almost. Because there's like an algorithm normally and it's programmed, you can almost work out what to do in order to.
Yeah, you can gauge your best odds of success.
Yeah, and so it ends up being not a procession, but it doesn't quite give that same experience of where you're obviously playing against a human opponent. I suppose it's why I really like role-playing games, and that's where I came into the hobby, and that's what I still like best. We still do occasional. Role playing with a couple of patrons, although James has been GMing Mothership for us. Has just had a baby, so congratulations, James. Well, he hasn't had a baby.
But when are you going to be back?
So we don't know when we're going to play again. But that's where I came into it, and so you have got it's obviously not competitive, but you've got that element of you're pitting yourself against what the GM's designed or is running, and so you've kind of got a bit more organic fluidity in it, which you don't have in a cooperative board game.
And it is worth expanding on, because Morph says that he meant more from a personal gaming perspective, but most of our personal gaming ends up on this channel because that's it. That's all our personal gaming.
Time to do any other games really.
and that's the thing. That is quite a big factor, I think, in our decision making for what we play. We don't play a lot of games because they're like, well, we can't get something out of that to put on the channel that anyone's going to want to watch. So we do have to try and find games that we think are interesting to watch.
I played the Pathfinder adventure card game with my kids over lockdown, and we really enjoyed that. That was really good. But my middle son will play Marvel Champions with me if I can prize him off Fortnite. And I actually need to be better at making him do that, or not making him do that, but suggesting that we do that, because I've been so busy recently that it's kind of I haven't got the energy to dig that out and play it, but I should do that more.
Pajamas Gagarin says, speaking of competitive play, they were playing a Necromunda campaign, and one guy got that much frustration after a few mistakes that he just rage quit the whole campaign. That is one problem with some narrative campaigns, is getting that balance between, if you have a few bad games, you don't get absolutely smashed into the ground, and then it's just not worth continuing because you're that far behind. Blood Bowl is another one for that kind of thing. But also making the narrative side of it matter enough that you actually have to care about it. Warcry was the other end of the scale, in that you could play a game, it didn't really matter if people died or not. There was there seemed to be no real investment into the fighters or that warband stuff. So getting that balance right can be really tricky, and I think after looking at the narrative on Kill Team and initially us being a bit interested in that side, we've kind of almost given up on the extra rules it implements because we just forget them anyway.
Yeah, that's the problem. I actually quite like the way the Kill Team narrative stuff hangs together, because I lost the first game, although not as bad as we first thought, as it turned out, but I lost the first game, but actually it didn't really make much difference from the narrative perspective.
Yeah.
So that was So that made me feel better going into the second game, but then I still got a bit peed off when it didn't go right, because I suppose you like to win on the night, don't you? One does like to win on the night.
One does.
Generally, and then so. But I agree with Pete in that the narrative bit of it ultimately just ends up giving you like an extra. I don't know what things are, but like a re-rolling in ones if you're tough or something, or slightly better to shoot, and then it just adds another layer of complexity. Which I mean, I like the fact that they're progressing, but actually, when you're in a role-playing game, you progress your character. It's your character. You don't have to worry about what everybody else is doing. Whereas when you've got 11 men and they're all progressing at a different rate, then trying to keep track of that and what the different things do. Is I don't know whether it's a young man's game, but I just I found it hard to keep up with on the table. We didn't even really have any, because we haven't got very much experience yet. Nobody's really evolved, but just the various bits of equipment and stuff or whatever, I found it difficult to keep track of what they were doing. And because the game is quite balanced, they don't in and of themselves do very much, so you end up trying to keep track of all this stuff that ultimately doesn't impact the game in a massive way. So it actually almost started to think, well, actually, if we just took it out, it might be better. But then, of course, you lose the narrative side of it. So it's tricky.
Yeah, I think all of these things, I think, are a young man's game, to be honest. I think all of these things come down to people who have time to sit there and go through and document this stuff. I mean, even Kill Team, which theoretically is a very, very light system, I didn't bring the cards home for a start. I haven't made any notes on, the stuff my Kill Team got as improvements or whatever. And I suspect we'll be doing it next Thursday when we get, or whenever we next get together to play Kill Team. We'll be sitting there for the first 45 minutes just going, what do I have to do again? What do I do with this character? What happens in this situation? So yeah.
And the thing with games like Kill Team or whatever, if one of you forgets the rules, then they're at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
Because when you're playing a co-op game, there's still conversation, and VJ's talking about Eldritch Horror and Arkham Horror, and like Marvel Champions is kind of the same. If you forget a rule when you're playing, it affects everybody equally, and either to your detriment, in which case you probably lose, or to your benefit, in which case you probably win, but it doesn't matter because you've had a good time. And so you can cope with a little bit more granularity there. Arkham Horror, the card game, I've bought and haven't played, and yet I'm already thinking they're rebranding it and they're reissuing it. I'm already thinking, perhaps we'll get that and play it on the channel, even though I've got a copy I haven't played, because I love the idea of playing it, but it's just finding the time to do it.
Yeah. Again, back to time. What was I was going to say something about? It's gone from my mind now. It's gone from your mind. Yeah, I don't know any competitive. There's a few people talking about competitive Magic the Gathering players. I don't really know any competitive Magic the Gathering players. I played it for a bit, and I don't think I really understood that it was competitive, because I just played it with my friends. I didn't realise there was a scene. I mean, admittedly, it was in 1997. So it was quite a long time ago, but I haven't really ever played. I haven't played it ever competitively. There is one game. I don't know if they could implement this in some way. When you're playing co-op games, generally, like you say, you just get into the analysis of it and just start to really overthink some of it sometimes, and maybe lose some of the element. We've got a game called Last Defense. It uses an app to drive the game, and it's a timed game. You only get 20 minutes to play it, and it's a co-op game, but actually it's some of the best fun I've had recently, because you play it, it's nice and simple. The app plays and it tells you when things are happening and when you have to do other things, but other than that it's completely co-op and everyone has to work together, but you've only got 20 minutes to do it, so you are racing against the clock the whole time, and it kind of, maybe that's the kind of element you need to add into those kind of co-op games to give them.
I think app-driven co-op things are the way forward, because then they add a degree of randomness, or they can have better AI, I guess.
Yeah, they can have a much better AI than just a table or a deck of cards. Melod Korn says that his only complaint in the narrative Kill Team is that narrative missions have the spec up special option, extra requisition points for doing some stuff, but our mission less balanced in the missions. I think some of the missions, we were talking about that in our first game, some of the missions definitely are more one-sided. Sometimes you are just like...
Well, they do say they're asymmetric, don't they?
Yeah.
But it's that's the bit I struggle with. And I realised after our first game that actually probably I wasn't, as the defender, I probably wasn't going to win.
Yes.
But it's hard to remember because I don't think I don't think it's immediately obvious that it's which ones are asymmetric. Well, not to me anyway.
I was thinking after we played that game that what you possibly should have done is when it was your turn, jump everybody off one side of the building so I couldn't get you with over half of my force, and then have all the rest of your force come on that side, so that you ended up consolidating all of your kill team on one edge. Because I had to spread mine out around you because I was surrounding you. If you'd have just concentrated on one edge, pushed through on that side and taken the people out on that side, and then brought all the rest of your reserves on that side as well, you could have then concentrated all your forces into one place and then taken me out piecemeal.
Maybe. I think it just felt like I needed to score victory points while I was still alive, because if you killed them off the thing, then I was done.
Yeah, but then if you'd run everybody off of the building, you might not have scored any in the first round, but they might have lived longer because you would have taken more of my force out, and then it would have been less of a threat.
Yeah, but I would have to have got back anyway. To Mab, I would have to have got back on the building. I think I didn't think of that. You might possibly be right.
I think that's the only way you could have won that. You would have had to have played the setup and looked at how I was set up and think, okay, he's spread out all the way around the board, but he's only got one orc on this side, so I'm gonna smash her on that side and take that guy out, that kind of thing. So I definitely think that anyway,
I think that's partially a problem with playing and recording it, because you want to make it exciting, and so there are certainly times, I think, in the game that's coming up, then almost certainly the best thing to do would have been to leg it in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
But that doesn't feel like it's very exciting.
That is another aspect to it, and I always found that with playing Underworlds, that I would sit there and hold on to a bad hand, thinking, but I've got all of these new faction cards in it, so I can't throw these cards away because people aren't then going to see them played. But actually what happened was they did see them played anyway, or scored, because I didn't have a very good hand, and then it never worked properly, so I always did badly. And again, recording games for the channel definitely affects the way we play things, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's very hard to say, okay, well, let's just play the game as we would play it, and not worry about how it comes across in the recording. We'll just play it, record it, and then upload the result afterwards, because you've still got to think about the camera, think about positioning, think about where the microphones are, think about talking through what's going on and the rolling the dice. So you can't just play a game and then you're always being reminded that you're doing this for the channel.
Yeah.
And then that always colours your decision, I think.
Yeah, we did play a game about a forthcoming release, but not Harrowdeep. And we did play it without the camera, didn't we, just to see what it was like, and we rattled through it.
We did actually complete that in like half hour.
Had a good time.
Yeah, that was actually it almost felt wasteful that we did that because we didn't record it. And it was just it was just a game. We just played a game. It felt almost slightly debauched that we just sat there and wasted some of our time playing an actual game, because we never do that anymore.
Play to enjoy it rather than for your entertainment.
Exactly.
Because normally we hate it. We hate playing.
We hate each other. We've hated each other for years.
For years and years and years. Well, actually, didn't used to hate him until he started telling him to put the mic in the right place.
Telling you, if we get Lavalier microphones, then you won't have to.
Well, that's true. Yeah. I just know that. Well, I know if they're wireless, it's fine. But I know if I have one with a wire, I'm just going to garrot myself.
That'll be our next big splurge.
Matt says he's heard we have a great What If logo now. We do, Matt. That suddenly appeared on Facebook. So thank you for that. I don't know if you've put it anywhere else on Discord or whatever, but yes, thank you. Matt has done us a little Lego What If.
That was very cool.
For our Lego Marvel Crisis Protocol, which we're playing this week. I'm very looking forward to it. And I've been reading around the subject. I'm actually really quite excited about it. I really like it. Seems like quite an elegant game. I've literally no idea how you play beyond the raw mechanics.
I did start to worry.
Go on.
No, after you. Sorry, I started talking. You haven't finished talking.
I was going to say, I don't know how the team building and stuff works, but it just seems like, I just feel like it could be just really fun, and hopefully I won't get too competitive with it, because it is, at the end of the day, about some superheroes throwing trash cans at one another, pretty much.
There was a bit, I was watching an episode of Ash Barker on Guerrilla Gaming. He was playing a game of it, and at one point I think it was Cable slid into the combat, picked up the there was a massive like shipping container, picked that up and threw it over at somebody, and it was just, that's cool. There's no world in which that's not cool. That is just cool. The one thing I did worry about is like, I've rolled a lot of D8s were being rolled, and there were lots of, I've got some crits and I've got some something else's and I've got something else, because there were crits and there were other things, specials or something like that.
It's not too bad. So I don't know if anybody wants to know this. So you've got a skull, which is basically a dead dice. So if you get a skull, that's absolutely nothing. There's a blank side, which can be re-rolled if you've got a re-roll thing.
Okay.
There's some hits, which if you're attacking somebody, hits count, and then you've got a defense shield somewhere, which obviously if you're defending, then they count. Then you've got a wild one, which can trigger certain abilities, but also count as whatever you need, so whether you're defending or.
Okay.
And then there's crit, which means you can, I think, roll another dice. That counts as a success, and you can roll an extra dice.
That sounds less confusing now, then.
So they're not too bad.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. So there you go. So I'm quite looking forward to that. It's got crits, which is I suppose it's strictly speaking taking somebody else's trademark, but
that's not our problem.
It's got crits. But yeah, I'm looking forward to playing it.
Yeah. So I mean, coming back to Kill Team again. What are other people's wants and desires out there in internet land that they would like to see? I would like to see more terrain. I think is another thing on my list. I'd like to see more. I say I'd like to see more alien terrain. I'm very
Not
aware.
More Imperial terrain.
I'm very aware that I've said I want to see more alien terrain, but then they did the Orc terrain, and I've immediately gone, what's the point in that?
You are very fickle. I have noticed that. I have noticed you do that quite a lot.
So, yeah, I kind of would like to see them do other stuff. I know they have done like the Eldar terrain and stuff like that in previous boxes. I'd just like to see more slightly off the wall kill teams in general. I
would like to see some Tau terrain. I'm very disappointed the Tau box doesn't have Tau terrain in it.
Well, can you even get Tau terrain? I don't think GW do Tau terrain at the minute.
Well, there you go. All more reason to do it.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, I agree. I mean, if there isn't any, that's definitely a good reason. Morph says Ash always gets overly competitive. I think he's just that kind of guy because he used to work for GW, so I think he's got that competitive edge just branded into him. I think if you work at GW, you end up being exposed to that a lot, and I think that becomes part of the GW thing. Is you have to try and push the big thing and make out about how competitive it is.
I haven't really watched him, so I can't really comment. But
I struggle with his videos because quite often he goes at it quite fast, and I know he does how to play videos, and I should possibly watch those where he might explain it a bit more. But if I watch his regular videos, I find the cameras very. I don't know how he does it because he obviously is holding the camera with one hand.
Yeah, it makes me a bit nauseous.
I don't know how he does that, but yeah, it makes me kind of feel a bit movement sickness. Obviously, he does a very good job because he's got lots and lots of followers, and I'm certainly not criticising him because there's no way that I can, pass judgment on that kind of thing.
Hey, Anthony's in the house.
Hello, Anthony.
Hello.
Tyrannid terrain, though, I think John Grunt mentioned a bit further off. I'd love to see Nid terrain, and I know that they did do some Forge World Nid terrain, so I'd like to see more of that kind of stuff. That would be quite cool.
I would like to see a spaceship.
That would be quite cool, yeah. What, like a wrecked one, or?
Yeah, well, just really the interior, but yeah, wrecked corridors would be fine.
I see.
Yeah, a crashed spaceship that would work for me. But yeah, I mean, it'd be very hard to do, but that's what I would like to see.
Ooh, Jarvis Gagarin has a question. He says, "Can you play Octaris campaigns with other factions?" You can, but you don't get. No, because you do get all of the requisition stuff, don't you? And things. So
they're very generic, and I think that almost that's both good and bad. So it's good in the sense that you can play them with whatever, but you can play them. You can play with whatever, but it's bad in that they don't. I suppose you have to make up your own flavour, but they don't really. I don't know why is it bad? Maybe it's not bad. But I think they're not specific to the lovely kill team that you've got. They're not specific to that. So that's why I was saying at the sort of top of the video that I would like to see kind of like you get one kill team with like its own little mini campaign series to go with it. But but they are completely generic, so you can play with any of the factions, and they're kind of, even the descriptions of how they run, also what you're trying to do, is very. It's not like the Krieg have infiltrated Orc space or anything like that. It's they deliberately left the vague so you can make up your own slant on what's happening.
Yeah, and some of the things, like some of the tables that they actually even mention in there, they're like, these are generally very good for the majority of your basic kill teams, but for some of them it might not make quite so much sense, so you might have to then ad-lib a little bit as to, you know, if you've got a Necron that has -1 weapon skill, maybe you can say that they've got a damage targeting system or something like that, rather than being concussed. But, you know, overall, yes, it is completely playable with any kill team you've got. Morph did just say, isn't the whole point of open chat being that it goes where it goes, no need to keep steering it back to kill team? Yes, I didn't set this one up to be a open chat though. I think I have specifically called this one about kill team wish lists, but maybe in the future we try and keep it more generic and we just talk about whatever we talk about.
Hey, one of our paid fans is in.
Hey.
Mick Nocta. So Luke says something very nice. You must have slipped him a fiver somewhere along the line.
Just got back in the hobby after 20 years. Got the kill team box. Was lost, to be honest. Watched the first kill team video I have at times. It helped. No, thank you very much.
Yeah, that's really lovely to hear. It's kind of why we do it at the end of the day.
Definitely. We certainly don't do it for the Lamborghinis and the Hondas and the Bahamas. But yeah, definitely. Every time we have somebody who comes up, it was like when we went to the Grand Clash ages ago, and we had loads of people just come up and say, I watched your videos, really loved you guys, you got me into this and that kind of stuff.
I learned to play the game and now I can crush you.
Yeah, I learned how to play from you. I think got better at it because obviously you guys suck. But yeah, thank you very much, Mick. Thank you.
It's really lovely to hear. Matchbox Lamborghinis, maybe for Kill Team we can get a Lego one, not Kill Team. Marvel Crisis Protocol, we can get a Lego Lamborghini. In fact, I've got a Lego Lamborghini somewhere. But like all Lego sets that have been with the children for any length of time, it's got bits missing.
Well, it depends with my children. If I give them to the older one, they will be built and then they will be set aside and they will never be touched again because that might break them. My youngest one barely even finishes some of his before he's like, okay, that's lovely, smash.
Yeah, I love my youngest, obviously because he's my child. No, but I love his imagination. But then there's a part of me who just twitches when he breaks bits off. What frustrates me with his Lego is that he's got these beautiful Star Wars things mostly that he's built, and we've got boxes and boxes and boxes of stuff that's been broken over the years. Because I've got 3 kids, and instead of going into the box and getting the panel that he needs, he just rips it off the spaceship where he can see it and puts it on. It's like, just go over there. There's about 100 in there.
Please,
yeah,
please.
But I love he's building. He's got into Marvel because of What If, and he's seen these that I have for the MCP game, and then he's taken all these other ones and basically made, I don't know, about 100 different Marvel heroes out of all the Lego minifigure bits, which is fantastic. And the other day he was outside being a Okoye from Black Panther, which was fab as well. He had a garden cane and he was jumping up and down, and swinging it around over his head.
Beating the family cat. Anonymous Jeff says that we taught him everything he knows, but did we teach him everything we know? Yes, somehow we managed to teach you everything we know, and then other stuff that we obviously don't.
VJ, no response from Mantic yet. The guy I sent the video to was on holiday till at least yesterday, so perhaps he's not got to me yet. Or perhaps they just thought,
who the fuck are these losers?
Yeah.
Now, Jonas Anderson has asked a very valid question. Any thoughts as to why there's alternate activations all throughout the game, except deployment? I can see in some situations why you have one person deploys, then the other person deploys. If you've got like your attacker and defender, then obviously the defender sometimes is in a worse position, and that means they have to... I think that's
the reason, isn't it? I think that's the reason. One of you's the defender, and so therefore...
But I mean, especially in open play games or match play, there's no reason why that couldn't be alternate.
I actually hadn't realised until our game the other day. Well, I hadn't realised, but you said, "Oh, you've got to set up first." I'm like, what? Isn't it not? Is it not one person at a time?
It does feel like it should be like that.
And I think that's partly because the first narrative game we played, it was I set up on the castle.
Yeah.
So it didn't matter. It didn't matter that I didn't really matter that I was first because I didn't really notice. But I really did notice because it really did matter for the second game.
It is weird. It is a weird one. I'm not sure why it's like that, but at least it's just deployment and not everything else.
What campaign ideas would we like to see? Something like Space Wars versus Thousand Suns, that would be cool. Or new ones like Octarius. Should they follow the Warzone themes that are being released? I think I don't know. I'd like to see them do different things, but I haven't got a massive anything. I haven't got a massive handle on the lore, so I don't really know what make good battles or not good battles. But I'm interested to see them take the game in places it can't go on the bigger scale. I think.
I mean, I like the idea of something like Space Wars versus Thousand Suns. That is a bit marine-y for me, but I would love to see, like, we've seen a 40k start set which was Mechanicus versus Necrons, and I liked that. Eldar versus like Chaos Demons maybe, or something. That'd be quite cool. I'd like to see stuff that's not just Marines versus blah, whatever that blah might be, horribly outclassed and outgunned. Mike Jones says he'd like to see something from the Siege of Rax or scenarios from the Black Library books. I mean, for the most part, I'd just like to see anything narrative. I think for me these days, Gun Sour
Chains versus Nids. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I just said that. I was funny enough. I was going to say that I've completely forgotten that. It was one of the things I thought of, but I don't want them to bring out Catch Chans because John Grant, one of our patrons, who's on, I think he was on at one point this evening, has been painting up the older models. And they are fantastic. Check him out on John Grant Miniatures on Instagram. They're on there and they are awesome. So if they brought out a whole load of new Catch Chans, I'd almost feel bad for him.
Yeah.
I mean, he'd probably love it because he can add more. But I think it would be almost like an insult for them to bring them out next week.
It would be almost, yeah. Into the Glory Hole suggests Orcs versus Nids. I mean, that was like the whole reason why Octarius became a thing. They steered the Nids towards the Orc planet, and then the Orcs.
So I was expecting a second kill team. Well, I suppose it's not Octarius, is it? But I was expecting Nids, so you could kind of fit into that narrative as well.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Sisters versus Chaos Cultists, that'd be quite cool. I'd also quite like an Astra Militarum versus Gene Stealer cult or Chaos cult thing, where you've got like that uprising going on from within an Imperial Guard. Army, that some of them have been corrupted. That kind of thing would be quite cool.
Gene Stealer cult versus the Chaos cult, where they both come out. Like, no, we were here first. No, fuck off, we were here.
No. It'd be like the People's Front of Judea and the Judean People's Front kind of thing, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, like, no, we're here to take out this Imperial Guard. No, we're here to take out this Imperial Guard army. I'd love to see. Someone did mention further up saying, will we ever see a start box without Imperium? Probably not ever, because they're the consummate good guys.
Seems unlikely.
They're like
consummate good guys, yeah.
They're not.
I think but it's partly because they are the biggest seller, aren't they? So if they brought out Eldar versus Nids, I think there'd be a lot of people going, well, I don't need to buy that. Whereas if you put at least one Imperium force in there, then I think you suddenly bring in people who might not have bought it otherwise.
Not only that, I think the Imperial forces, I think a lot of people most identify with because they are human. I mean, I know Space Marines are about as far removed as humans as you can be, but they still look human, they still look like people. But I think all the others, there is an element of people maybe not connecting with them, and I think that's partially why Space Marines have done so well. They are like the cool good guys, the fighting against the innumerable hordes of all the evil Xenos and stuff like that. So
I saw an amazing post on Facebook by a guy who been suffering from depression, and he made this amazing thing he'd written about how he didn't see himself as a Space Marine, but how the struggle of the Space Marines had kind of inspired him, because they basically just, there's always more, and they just keep going, and even when they're down they get back up again, and it was really quite something actually. I never really thought about it before that, because like Space Marines do get a bit of a bad rep for being bland and sort of boring. But this guy had obviously really found something in their continual struggle, which was really quite impressive.
Yeah, and Matt's just managed to consolidate that down into the one charm.
Thanks, Matt.
I get knocked down, but I get up again. Yes, it is a bit like that.
A very moving piece of written stuff that he'd written.
Matt has just crapped all over. No, I know he didn't on purpose, but yeah, it's there is that element to it, because most of the time when it's guardsmen or things like that, they just die. That's all that happens. They just get obliterated and die. But Marines do keep getting back up. I think Marines are quite interesting for that aspect of things. They are like humanity's last hope and that beacon in the darkness, and that there is a lot of attraction there for that. I just think they're very terrible to write in a much closer perspective, like they've done with the Angels of Death, the Warhammer Plus TV series, their Warhammer TV series thing. Because when you actually get down to the chit chat between Marines, it's fucking dull. Like everything's brother, and everything's about 60 words long when it could just be Tech Marine or whatever. So yeah, most of it, I can definitely see the attraction there for a lot of people for things like Marines and Imperial Guard and stuff like that.
Seems to be some talk about custodes and custards and Gene Stealer cults. There's a box.
What? There's a rumoured box of Custodes versus Gene Stealer cult coming out?
Yeah, I have no I have no knowledge of that. I'd love to see some Gene Stealer cults. I'm not that bothered about the
Custodes are dull as fuck.
Yeah.
They're duller because they're even worse than Marines in that they just like they've all got like Mary Sue plot armor. Because it's like there's even less of those than Marines, so they definitely can't ever die.
We were discussing the other day, weren't we, Pete, that the Rubicon Primaris, which apparently is very risky, clearly isn't very risky at all.
It's obviously safer than the COVID vaccine right now, it would appear.
Crossing that, it's just like literally just a door, you just open it and walk through.
My brothers, I may not return for it. Oh, it's done. Sorry. Oh, there's a bit of a jump there, but I've just finished. Oh.
Yeah. It's like when you're out in the woods and there's like a ditch, one of those little wooden bridges. Oh, it's the Rubicon Primaris.
Is that all, Captain? Yeah. Do you want to do it? I mean, it'll take us about 5 minutes for everyone to go. Doesn't seem quite as dangerous as they made out. No, I think they were lying.
It's like a vasectomy, yeah.
It's a bit like, yeah.
No, it was 70% fatality when it was rolled out, but Call has made it a lot more safer since. Quelle surprise.
So, yeah, it's
got like airbags.
Yeah.
And anti-lock braking and stuff like that now.
I mean, how did you just sit there with a lot of the first ones just going, better or worse? Better or worse? Yeah, I mean, it's I wish GW could poke fun at themselves a bit more in that aspect, because and a new special character has crossed the dangerous Rubicon Primaris. It really isn't that dangerous, is it? Because they've all got plot armor, they've all got names, therefore they're not going to die. Can you imagine
they should just release one where they just kill somebody. I mean, somebody would try across the Rubicon Primaris and died. Sorry.
It would, yeah. I mean, it would. Can you imagine the uproar if they took like a really popular, famous, like if they took Ragnar Blackmane, and he went into the Rubicon Primaris and he's dead.
There was the break. He rolled a 1, and then his re-roll, he got a 1.
and then his games master passed him a note saying lose 1 fate point, and he passed a note back saying I haven't got any.
Going back a bit now.
Just a few years now, that one, yeah. It's like, it'd be brilliant if they did something like that. Into Glory House,
they did take the mickey out of themselves about the Stormcast, didn't they? Where they said you can't just open another vault or whatever it was. I can't.
I loved that. I really loved the fact that they just took a step back from a moment and went, "This is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
Let's really outline how ridiculous this is," and just then they went with it anyway. So it's a bit like, you know, you can always tell in the plot, like in the story, you know, brother Redshirt, whoever it is,
Brother Deadmeat.
or Private
Why is he
Redshirt.
dead? He didn't pass the Rubicon.
So I'm just reading up some of the comments there. Yeah, Jonas said it further up. He'd love them to have a character like the Martys have a servitor scrub or something like that. Just don't go badly wrong all of a sudden. Just Monty Python it almost for a moment, or Blackadder almost, something
They
like
brought
that.
out 2 more chambers apparently into the glory hole since they did that. Yeah, I can't keep up because that side of it is just, you know,
It's just mental.
to me it's not important because they're going to bring out whatever models they want to bring out regardless of.
That side of it, I definitely feel like an old man now when I see some releases come out and go, oh, they're nice, shiny looking men, aren't they? And then somebody in our
Do you?
and somebody in our Discord will say something, oh, they're the latest Primaris supery duperies, and I'll be like, oh, that's nice. It's like all I've got. Oh, he's got a big hammer. Does he use that to bash them with? Oh, yeah. Oh, very good. Have you done your own work yet? I'll just potter off on my own somewhere. So it's like, one thing Matt's just pointed out, that there's the Thunderstrike Chamber and the new Dragon Riders. I think the Dragon Riding is they're a bit insensitive because they're all flying around with dragon skin capes on. So I've just skinned your mate and I'm wearing his face. Let me jump on your back and we'll go and beat some people up.
Yeah.
No, you sick fuck.
Peter are going to have a field day with that, aren't they?
Yeah. The whole Rubicon thing's like a lame retcon plot on, says more fun. I mean, it is a bit basically. They've just basically said we need to make bigger Marines, so we'll create this thing to allow us to make bigger Marines, and then when we want to update some of our latest characters, some of our old characters, we can just update them to make them bigger too.
Yes, which is why it's absurd when people get upset about the law being, or people not following the law.
Yeah.
Because the law is just entirely there to serve them. Well, it isn't all made up, but it's entirely there to serve the manufacturer of miniatures.
Yeah.
Or so if they decide something like, dare I say it, female space marines are going to sell lots, it'll suddenly be possible.
Yeah. Because GW will find a way, and I know that we'll have a load of Arch Warhammer people out there and stuff raging away at it and foaming at the mouth with spittle and hate, and most people won't give a fuck about them. We'll just get on with our lives, you know, being grown-ups. And you know, I know there's a lot of people out there that hate Primaris Marines, but you know what? I think some of the Primaris Marine models look fucking brilliant. Really do. Miles better.
Scale creep have got too much. Make the law say the Marines are bigger. Yes, that's exactly what it's like.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think anybody who takes that too seriously and gets really annoyed with it does need to grow up a little. Just go outside and go, oh, there's a world out here and it's full of people with real problems. And maybe that's where they need to be for a while.
Yeah. Isn't Dragon Riders jumping the shark though? It is a little bit. Where will they go next? It's very true. It will be hard to go to a new chamber with robes or bearskin. Yep, absolutely. I think the Ideneth really were jumping the shark more than the. But yeah, I mean that is the problem, and that's because they keep finding bigger and better things. Eventually, they've got to stop, haven't they?
Well, it's a bit like with 40k, like the Necrons, as they started to evolve them, they were like, oh, and they've captured gods and they've trapped them in these shards and stuff. And then they brought out the model, which was like the Satan thing with this massive vehicle thing. It's like, where'd you go from there? They've got literal trapped gods. What else do you do with that?
Dragons riding dragons. Dragons riding dragons riding dragons.
Maybe they should have Primaris Sigmarines riding Primaris Sigmarines just on their shoulders.
I like it. Like Lug It and Thwack.
Exactly, but with Stormcast.
It's weird they calling crossing the Rubicon too. In ancient Rome, crossing the Rubicon referred to as taking a force into a demilitarized zone, which was basically just treachery.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
I'm sure GW looked into that a lot before
I
they came
thought
up
it
with
was
this.
dying. I have to say, I actually thought it was dying. So, it shows what I know.
I'm sure GW looked into that a lot before they wrote this law as a subtle signal to all their fans that they were going to be stopping, or whatever it is that the current whack jobs have come up with as their theory for GW and what they're doing. I love that people always have to come up with a theory, some hidden agenda or something behind what they're doing. Maybe it's just because they're going to make money. Maybe that's why they've done it.
Yeah, the lore is better fluid. It's apocryphal. Yes, it's better than fluid. It's apocryphal. Yeah. So, I mean, I quite like the Primaris models too. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
I really like. I've got him somewhere. I started painting him and then didn't because that's how life works. I've got the apothecary model somewhere, which I really liked. I need to get back to him.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you've got the intercessors, haven't you? They're all the ones you're painting up as blood angels. They're all Primaris Marines and stuff. So
yeah, and I've got the original. They're all painted as Ultramarines over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's nearly 11 o'clock,
It's
amazingly.
nearly 11 o'clock. We've managed to bather on about Kill Team, about competitive versus co-op games, bullshit that GW makes up to sell plastic men, and how that just is, however they decide it wants it to be. There we go. We're at the end of another evening.
Anybody back the He-Man Kickstarter? Sorry, I just got a complete tangent.
Did anybody back that?
The Sigmar one. I just noticed some of the models on Twitter today, but just wanted anybody
already?
It looks the Kickstarter's up and running, I think. Or if it's not up and running, then they're promoting it. But it's it looks great. But I'm not going to back it because it's too big. But just wondered if anybody had.
One of the people we hired at my work about 6 months ago, I got talking to him, and it turns out he was a closet Warhammery person. He was thinking about getting back into the game after having been out of it for many years, and I immediately jumped on that and talked to him about all that kind of stuff. And the other day he mentioned he'd ordered the new Hero Quest. He was like, "Oh yeah, I've ordered this," and I was sitting there thinking, "Yeah, but it looks a bit shit." Didn't say that, but I did think
that must be fulfilling soon. I don't know. Did anybody back that? Before you insult them, Pete. Anybody back that? It must be close to fulfilling. I would have thought. It's quite a long time ago now.
I think it will be coming out soon. Yeah, because that's what he said about he's expecting that to come soon. So, I mean, it looked all right, but I mean, the fact they had to change some of the models out because some of them just infringed on GWIP and stuff. I was like, I'm alright.
But it was just a reskin, wasn't it? It wasn't even really. They didn't change the rules, which I think is probably a bad thing because rules are better now than they used to be.
Pajamas could go and asks a final question of what is lore in 40k? Books, codices. Recently all the authors have been saying things like it's all legends and stories. They're not certain of the facts. Lore is whatever the neckbeards have latched onto and based their life around. It's pretty much it. Yeah.
Well, it's not, is it? That's the silly thing. There are some people who want it to be codified, but then there's loads of people who just like talking about the stories.
I think again it comes down to that very loud minority that have said, well, actually once in 1987 they said this about Space Marines, so they can't change it now. They're in complete contravention of their own law. That's not how it works. They just made some shit up, and now they've decided that's a bit wank, so they've made some new shit up. That's like how all of this works. I can't remember who it was. Somebody was moaning about them doing a new TV series of Good Omens.
I think we talked about that a couple of weeks ago. But
tell the story again because it's good. They're just going to make it up. And he tweeted, funnily enough, that's how we did the first one. Just made it up.
Just made it up,
yeah. And I know there's loads and loads of channels of people out there that go along talking about the lore and stuff like that. And that's great, if it keeps people interested. But, they're just going to have to accept that a lot of it's made up by a bunch of sad losers with no spare, no life, who just have been paid to come up with stories. And that's pretty much how it all will continue.
Yeah, and a lot of the original stories were just literally made up because they were kind of nerdy history buffs. So they literally just ripped stuff out of history. Matt's talking about the big Roman legions. It was all based on that kind of stuff, and obviously they got vampire flavoured ones and
with a
Genghis Khan era flavoured ones and that kind of thing. And so they were just made up. Well, I imagine some of them were just made up on the spot one evening when they were playing a game.
They were just like, oh, we need to come up with a thing. And they came up with a stupid name, and some of them stuck, and that's how you end up with Gazgul, Mag, Uruk, Thraka, You know, because that's what Andy Chambers decided ages ago was a great name for an orc, and now he's like part of the lore, and people hold this character up as, you know, absolute cast iron canon that cannot ever be changed. But it was just something some bloke made up 30 years ago and just came up with a stupid name.
Probably in the pub.
Probably, yeah. Probably, you know, Chambers and I can't remember his name now. He's retired, I think.
Jervis Johnson.
Jervis Johnson, yeah. They were probably in a pub drinking a pint of bitter and just said, what should we call them? And they just came up with some shit. And obviously all of it, especially back in the 80s and stuff, came with a very liberal dollop of punk and hatred for the Tory party.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
So this is really ripe 40k time again.
It is, yeah. It is. We are getting back into that. Expect a lot of new 40k stuff coming out.
Well, I just meant hatred for the Tory party, really.
Well, that's it. I mean,
but
both good. So anyway, I think that's us done for another evening.
It is. We're getting on to politics. It's time to stop.
Yeah, whenever you get to politics and religion and how to raise children, just avoid those subjects.
Next week, we'll be talking about Catholicism on Tuesday.
So thank you all for tuning in tonight. Stay safe out there. And if you're watching this later on, how the hell did you manage to stick around for this long? Well, thank you. And let us know what you'd like to hear us talk about next time.
Yep. I guess we might have a bit more Harrowdeep news, so maybe next week will be about Harrowdeep.
Well, I suspect next week's going to be a Patreon only effect, so we'll be announcing our winner of our competition.
Yes, it's next. It's the first Tuesday of the month next week, isn't it? So yes, we do Patreon chat. So patrons, put it in your diaries. Patreon chat next week.
We'll be announcing a winner to our competition.
If you're not a patron yet, this is a time for a sneaky plug. Do consider joining. Get all sorts of lovely benefits for just a couple of quid a month. And
get the
we
competition.
can make more and more lovely content. It means we can go and buy more Lego, which is perhaps not a great selling point for you guys, but yeah.
Get the monthly competitions and all that good stuff. So it's always and our as soon as Harrowdeep comes out, our next Patreon TTS tournament. So
yes.
So thank you for joining us. Thank you to everyone who commented and gave their points of view and asked questions. You keep this channel alive.
Absolutely, and thanks for quite a few kind of people who are always on tonight. So it's really nice to see them all. I see Mike Jones. It's really nice to meet everyone. It is really great to meet lovely new people. So thank you for joining, and we'll see you next time on the Ages of Sigmar.
Well, Mike Jones did just ask, when is the Lego thingy? Well, we're recording it this Thursday.
We're recording it on Thursday, so you bought about 10 days after that, Pete, something like that.
It'll probably be a week of Friday.
Yeah.
So not this Friday, next Friday. Fingers crossed. Yeah. This Friday will hopefully be Kill Team.
I'm going to make Pete make a trailer as well, so look out for that first.
A trailer.
A trailer for the thing, like you did a Death Guard trailer.
Oh yeah.
Like you did a Lego MCP trailer.
Yeah, I can try.
Yeah. And we've got a logo.
We have.
Cheers, Matt.
Cool. Well, thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.
Cheers, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.